The stars looked cold and empty in this part of space. Captain Park stood on the bridge of the UENS Valor and watched the darkness through the main window. Her ship was 3 days from the nearest supply station, patrolling the outer rim territories where few vessels traveled. It was quiet duty, but someone had to do it. The Valor was a rapid response cruiser built for speed and combat. It carried a crew of 240 souls, each one trained for emergency situations. They had not seen real action in months. Some crew members were bored, was grateful for the peace. "Captain," Lieutenant said from his station. His voice carried a note of surprise. "I am picking up something strange." Turned to face her communications officer. Was young, only 26 years old, but he was good at his job. His fingers moved quickly across his console as he worked to clean up the signal. "What is it?" asked. "A distress call, Captain. Human frequencies, human emergency codes." Looked up at her with wide eyes. "Someone is in trouble." Commander stepped closer to station. He was the first officer of the Valor, a careful man who never made quick decisions. His job was to question everything, and he did it well. "Play it," said. Pressed a button, and the bridge filled with a desperate voice. Static crackled around the words, but the message was clear enough. "This is the civilian research vessel Starlight Dawn. We are under attack by pirates. Our engines are destroyed. We have wounded. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. Our coordinates are—" The voice gave a location, then continued. "There are 43 people on board. We cannot hold much longer. Please hurry." The message repeated, the same words, the same fear in the voice. Felt her heart beat faster. Somewhere out there, her people were dying. Every minute she waited was a minute they might not have. "Where is that location?" she asked. Checked his data. "The neutral zone, Captain. About 14 hours at maximum speed." Frowned. "The neutral zone is controlled by the consortium. We are not supposed to enter without permission." "I know the rules," Commander said. "But those are human beings asking for help. We cannot ignore them." "They are not our enemies, but they are not our friends either," said carefully. "If we enter their space without warning, they might see it as aggression. We should contact Earth Command first." Considered his words. Was right to be careful. There were a powerful species who controlled a large section of space. They did not like other species entering their territory, but the distress call was real, and every moment of delay could cost lives. "How long would it take to reach Earth Command and get a response?" asked. 6 hours minimum," answered. "Those people might be dead in 6 hours," made her decision. Set course for the distress coordinates, maximum speed. Did not argue further. He knew his captain, and he knew that once she decided to help someone, nothing would change her mind. It was one of the things that made her a good leader. It was also, he worried, something that could get them all killed one day. The Valor turned and accelerated toward the neutral zone. The engines hummed with power as the ship pushed itself to its limits. Continued to monitor the distress signal. Something about it bothered him, a small feeling in the back of his mind that he could not explain. He ran the signal through his equipment again, checking every detail. "Captain," he said slowly, "there is something odd about this transmission." Walked to a station. "What do you mean?" "The signal strength is inconsistent. Sometimes it is strong, sometimes weak, but not in a natural pattern," pointed at his screen. "And the voice, the emotional tone does not change. When people are truly scared, their voice changes as they speak. This one stays the same throughout each repeat." "Could it be a recording?" asked. "All distress calls are recordings," admitted. "They repeat automatically so rescue ships can find them, but this one feels, I do not know, wrong somehow." Thought about this. Could the equipment be damaged? If their ship was attacked, their communication systems might not be working correctly. "That is possible," said. He wanted to believe that explanation. The alternative was too dark to consider. "Keep monitoring it," ordered. Let me know if anything changes." The hours passed slowly. The crew prepared for a rescue operation. Medical teams their supplies. Security teams checked their weapons in case pirates were still in the area. Everyone moved with purpose, focused on saving lives. Did not sleep. She sat in her chair on the bridge and watched the stars stream past as her ship flew toward danger. She thought about the 43 people on the Starlight Dawn. Were they huddled together in fear? Were they wounded and bleeding? Were any of them already dead? Humans had always answered distress calls. It was part of who they were. When someone cried for help, humans came running. This was true on Earth for thousands of years, and it remained true among the stars. The galaxy had learned that if you called for a human would answer. Some alien species thought this was stupid. Why risk your own life for strangers? Why not let the weak die so the strong could survive? Humans never understood this thinking. To them, every life had value, and no one should face death alone if help could reach them. Entering the neutral zone in 10 minutes, the navigation officer announced. "Move to stand beside. We should raise shields and arm weapons," he suggested quietly, "just in case." "Do it," agreed. "But keep weapons powered down. I do not want to look aggressive." The ship crossed the invisible line into space. Nothing happened. No alarms, no challenges, no patrols demanding to know their business. The space around them remained empty and silent. "Long-range sensors are picking up something," reported. "Debris field ahead matching the distress coordinates." Leaned forward. "What kind of debris?" "Metal fragments scattered across a wide area, consistent with a destroyed ship." Paused. "Captain, if pirates attacked the Starlight Dawn, they did serious damage." The crew grew quiet. A destroyed ship meant bodies floating in space. It meant they might be too late, but there was still hope. Escape pods could have launched. Survivors might be hiding in the wreckage, waiting for rescue. "Take us in carefully," ordered. "Full sensor sweep. Look for life signs, escape pods, anything that might hold survivors." The Valor slowed as it approached the debris field. Twisted metal spun slowly in the void, catching starlight on broken edges. It looked like something terrible had happened here. Stood up from her chair. Her instincts screamed at her that something was wrong. The debris looked too clean, too evenly spread. Real destruction was messy and random. This looked almost arranged. "All hands battle stations," she said. The alarm rang through the ship. Crew members ran to their positions. Shields powered up, weapons charged. Looked at his captain with understanding in his eyes. "You feel it too." "Yes," said grimly. "This is not a rescue, this is something else." She was right, but she had no idea how bad things were about to become. The debris field spread before the Valor like a graveyard of metal and lies. Captain Park stood at the center of her bridge, watching the wreckage spin slowly in the darkness. Her crew worked in tense silence, scanning for survivors that she now suspected did not exist. "Captain," said, his voice tight with confusion, "the debris does not match any known human vessel design. These metal fragments are made from alloys." Before could respond, space itself seemed to come alive. Lights appeared around the debris field, dozens of them, emerging from behind asteroids and chunks of floating metal. Ships, warships, more than she could count in the first terrible moment. 12 vessels, reported, his voice steady despite the fear that must have been filling his heart. Heavy cruisers and destroyers, they were hiding in the asteroid clusters. Felt cold. They had flown directly into a trap, and now they were surrounded by enemies with no way out. A communication signal flashed on console. "They are hailing us, Captain." "Put it through." The main screen flickered and a face appeared. The alien had gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. His eyes were large and black, without any white, like pools of dark water. He wore the elaborate uniform of a high-ranking military officer. "Human vessel," the alien said, his voice translated by the ship's computers into flat, emotionless words. "I am High Commander of the Consortium. You are trespassing in our space. You will surrender your ship immediately." Kept her expression calm. "High Commander, we entered your space in response to a human distress call. We were trying to rescue our people." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "There are no humans here except you. There never were. The distress call was created by us. Every word, every cry for help, every desperate plea. We studied human emergency signals for months to get it perfect." The bridge crew exchanged looks of horror. They had faked a distress call. They had used human voices, human fear, human suffering as bait for a trap. "Why?" asked, though she already knew the answer would be terrible. "Your species has something we want," explained. "Your technology, your weapons, your shield systems. Our scientists wish to study them, and your crew will make excellent leverage when we negotiate with Earth. 43 prisoners from your Starlight Dawn would have been valuable. 240 from a military vessel is even better." Felt anger building in her chest, hot and sharp. This alien had used her compassion against her. He had twisted the most noble part of human nature into a weapon. "We will not surrender," she said. Tilted his head, genuinely confused. "You have one ship. I have 12. Your weapons cannot defeat us and you cannot escape. Surrender is your only logical choice." "Then we choose something other than logic." The alien stared at her for a long moment. "This is why we targeted humans. Your species is predictable in your foolishness. You always come when someone calls for help. You never stop to think if it might be a trap. We knew exactly what you would do." "You think you understand us," said quietly. "You do not. I understand that you will die if you resist. Stand down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning." The screen went dark. Moved close to. "Captain, he is right about one thing. We cannot win a straight fight against 12 ships." "Then we will not fight straight," turned to her crew. "Ensign Myra, what is our weapons status?" The young weapons officer looked up from her console. She was barely 23 on her first deep space mission, and her hands were shaking slightly. But her voice was steady when she answered. "All weapons charged and ready, Captain. Torpedoes loaded. Point defense systems online." "Good." Looked around at her crew, seeing fear and determination in equal measure. "Listen to me, all of you. We are not going to surrender. We are not going to let these aliens take us. They think they know humans because they recorded some distress calls and studied some signals. They have no idea what we are capable of." Raised his hand slightly. "Captain, they are jamming our communications. I cannot send a message to Earth Command. No one knows we are here." This was bad news, but did not let it show on her face. "Keep trying to find a way through. Any gap in their jamming, any weakness at all, I want to know about it." "Yes, Captain." The fleet began to move, tightening the circle around the Valor. They moved with confidence, like predators who knew their prey had nowhere to run. "Take us into the debris field," ordered. "Maximum speed." The helmsman obeyed without question. The Valor surged forward, diving into the maze of floating metal and rock. The debris field was dangerous, full of spinning chunks that could damage the hull, but it was also cover. They would have trouble targeting them in this mess. "Clever," admitted, "but we cannot hide in here forever." "We are not hiding. We are choosing our battlefield." The first ship followed them into the debris field. It was larger than the Valor, with more guns and thicker armor. But it was also slower and less able to dodge the spinning obstacles. "Fire torpedoes," commanded. "Target their forward shields." Myra's hands moved across her console. 2 bright lines of light shot from the Valor and struck the enemy ship. The explosions lit up the darkness, and the vessel shook from the impact. "Direct hit," Myra reported. "Their shields are holding, but we hurt them." "Good, keep firing." The battle had begun. The Valor danced through the debris field, using the wreckage as cover while striking at any enemy that came too close. Myra proved herself quickly, hitting targets with impressive accuracy despite her inexperience. The young officer was scared, but she did not let fear stop her from doing her job. 3 ships chased them through the maze of metal. The aliens were learning, adapting their tactics, but humans were good at fighting in difficult conditions. Earth's history was full of smaller forces defeating larger ones through cleverness and determination. An explosion rocked the Valor. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Hull breach on Deck 7, someone shouted. "Emergency holding." "Casualties?" asked. 3 wounded, no deaths yet. Yet that word hung in the air like a curse. His voice came through the speakers, somehow bypassing the communication blocks. "You fight well for doomed creatures, but every minute you resist, more of your people die. Is your pride worth their lives?" Did not answer. She would not give him the satisfaction. Suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, there is a solar flare building on the nearby star. When it releases, it might disrupt their jamming for a few seconds." "How long until it happens?" "Approximately 4 minutes." 4 minutes, an eternity in battle, but also a chance. "Hold together," told her crew. "We just need to survive 4 more minutes." The Valor continued its desperate dance through the debris field. More hits landed on both sides. Another explosion tore through the human ship, killing 5 crew members instantly. The smell of smoke and burning metal filled the bridge. Myra cried as she fired her weapons, tears running down her face, but her aim never wavered. She killed because she had to, not because she wanted to. The solar flare erupted. Now shouted. Sent everything he had through the brief gap in the jamming. He had no time for a long message, no time to explain what had happened. He sent only 3 words, along with their coordinates. "Trap coordinates." The jamming closed again, cutting off the transmission. Slumped in his chair. "Message sent. I do not know if it got through." "It got through," said with more confidence than she felt. "Earth will come." Appeared on the screen again. His expression had changed. He looked angry now, his black eyes narrowing with frustration. "You sent a signal. It does not matter. Your fleet is too far away. You will be dead or captured long before help arrives." "Then you have nothing to worry about," replied. "Why do you look so afraid?" The screen went dark again, but not before saw something flicker across the alien's face. Doubt. The first crack in his confidence. The battle continued, but now there was hope. Somewhere far away, humans had heard the call, and humans always answered. The Valor was dying. Captain Park could feel it in the shaking of the deck beneath her feet, in the constant screaming of alarms that no one bothered to silence anymore. Her beautiful ship was being torn apart piece by piece, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Another explosion threw her against the railing. She tasted blood in her mouth and ignored it. "Shields at 12%, reported. His uniform was torn, and a deep cut on his forehead leaked blood down his face. "One more direct hit and they will fail completely." "Engine status." "Chief Engineer O says he can give us maybe 20% power. Maybe." 20%. Not enough to fight, not enough to run, barely enough to die slowly instead of quickly. Down in the engine room worked like a man possessed. He was covered in grease and burns, his hands bleeding from torn skin, but he refused to stop. Cables sparked around him. Pipes leaked dangerous gases. None of it mattered. "Come on," he whispered to the ship. "Come on, girl, stay with me." He rerouted power from systems they no longer needed. Lights went dark in empty sections of the ship. Climate control shut down on damaged decks. Everything that could be sacrificed was sacrificed to keep the engines breathing. Back on the bridge, Myra continued firing at the enemy fleet. She had stopped crying hours ago. Now her face was empty, focused entirely on her job. When this was over, if she survived, she would feel everything she was pushing aside. But not now. Now she was a weapon. 2 enemy ships damaged, she reported. One has retreated to the edge of the battle, the other is still fighting. Good work, said. They had hurt the fleet, but not enough. 10 ships still surrounded them, slowly closing in for the kill. The debris field that had protected them earlier was now mostly cleared by weapons fire. They had nowhere left to hide. Thousands of light years away, Admiral Shin stood in the command center of Earth's Second Fleet. He was an older man with gray hair and a face lined by decades of service. He had fought in 3 wars and buried too many soldiers to count. When the burst transmission arrived, he was reviewing supply reports. 3 words appeared on his screen, along with coordinates. Trap coordinates. Did not hesitate, he did not ask questions, he did not wait for confirmation, he simply acted. All ships emergency mobilization, he announced through the fleet communication system. We move in 15 minutes. His aide approached with concern on his face. Admiral, the Galactic Council will want to know why we are entering the neutral zone. We should get diplomatic clearance first. The used fake human distress calls to trap one of our ships. They are killing our people right now. Looked at his aide with cold eyes. Do you think I care about diplomatic clearance? Sir, entering space without permission could start a war. The war has already started. They started it when they used our voices against us. The Second Fleet was one of Earth's most powerful military forces. 37 warships, including 3 massive dreadnoughts capable of destroying small moons. It was not a fleet designed for patrol or defense. It was designed for one purpose: overwhelming destruction. The Council received notice of Earth's mobilization within the hour. A representative contacted immediately. Admiral, you cannot enter the neutral zone. The consortium has sovereign rights over that territory. If you violate their space, you will face consequences. The violated something more sacred than territory, replied. They faked a distress call. They used human screams for help as bait for a trap. Every species in this galaxy knows that distress signals are sacred. The broke that trust. That may be true, but the proper response is diplomacy. Let the Council investigate. Let us find a peaceful solution. Thought about the 3-word message on his screen. He thought about the ship that sent it, probably damaged and alone, surrounded by enemies. He thought about the crew members dying while politicians debated. Tell this, he said. If they release our people unharmed, we will discuss terms. If our ship is destroyed or our people are captured, we will turn their fleet into dust. They have until we arrive to make their choice. He cut the communication before the Council representative could respond. Back at the battle, things were getting worse. The Valor had stopped running. Its engines had finally failed completely, leaving the ship drifting helplessly in space. Called the bridge with pain in his voice. Captain, I am sorry, I cannot fix this. The main reactor is damaged beyond repair. We have emergency power only. You did your best, told him. No one could have done more. Fleet surrounded the crippled human ship. The High Commander appeared on the screen again, his expression one of triumph. Your ship is dead. Your crew is exhausted. You have fought well, I will admit that, but the battle is over. Surrender now and I will treat your people fairly. Looked at her crew. Sat slumped at his station, barely conscious from blood loss. Stood beside her, swaying on his feet. Myra's hand still hovered over her weapon's console, ready to fight until her last breath. Reroute all remaining power to weapons, ordered quietly. Captain asked. If we cannot run and we cannot survive, then we will take as many of them with us as possible. When Earth learns what happened here, they will know that the Valor went down fighting. Nodded slowly, understood. The crew obeyed without complaint. Lights dimmed throughout the ship. Life support dropped to minimum levels. Everything they had left went into the weapons systems. Watched this on his sensors. What are you doing? You cannot win. Winning was never the goal, said. Making you pay was. You would rather die than accept defeat. This is madness. No, this is being human. Shook his head in disbelief. You confuse me, Captain. You came here to save people. You risked everything because you heard voices calling for help, and now you would throw away your lives rather than surrender. Where is the logic? Logic does not explain everything about us, answered. We love, we hate, we hope. We fight for things that cannot be measured or calculated. You wanted to understand humans. Here is your lesson. We do not give up. Ever. Even when we know we cannot win, we still stand. We still fight. We still hope that someone will hear us and come to help. No one is coming to help you. Smiled, though it hurt her split lip. You do not know that. The ships began their final approach. Boarding parties prepared to launch. This was the end. And then raised his head from his console. Captain, he said weakly, I am detecting something. Multiple energy signatures, large ones. Enemy reinforcements? Asked. No, eyes widened. Human. The signatures are human. Space tore open at the edge of the battle zone. Light poured through the gaps as ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. Big ships, warships, an entire fleet appearing from nowhere. 37 vessels, 3 dreadnoughts, the full power of Earth's second fleet arriving in perfect formation. Stared at his sensors in shock. That is impossible. They could not have gotten here this fast. Laughed. It hurt everything in her body, but she laughed anyway. You said you understood us. You said we were predictable, but you forgot the most important thing about humans. What's demanded? We do not abandon our own. Ever. When you faked that distress call, you thought you were using our weakness against us. Instead, you woke up something much worse than one ship. A new voice came through the communication system, strong and furious. This is Admiral Shin of Earth's Second Fleet. You are surrounded by overwhelming force. Your trap has failed, and now you will answer for what you have done. The fleet, moments ago confident of victory, suddenly found itself and outmaneuvered. 12 ships against 37. No tricks could save them now. Leaned back in her chair, finally allowing herself to feel relief. Earth had heard them. Earth had answered. And they were about to learn why you should never make humanity angry. Admiral Shin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UENS Retribution, and looked at the enemy fleet with cold fury. 12 warships floated between him and the crippled Valor. They had hurt his people. They had used human voices to lure a human ship into a trap. Now they would understand the cost of that decision. Open a channel, ordered. All frequencies, I want everyone to hear this. His communication officer obeyed. The message went out to the fleet, to the Galactic Council observers, to every listening post within range. This is Admiral Shin of Earth's Second Fleet. His voice was calm but filled with controlled rage. To the forces, you used our language. You recorded our people's cries for help. You twisted our compassion into a weapon against us. You thought this was clever. You thought humans were weak because we answered distress calls. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Now learn what happens when you make humanity angry. High Commander's face appeared on the screen. The alien had lost his earlier confidence. His black eyes darted nervously, calculating odds that no longer favored him. Admiral, perhaps we can discuss this situation. There has been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Voice dropped lower, more dangerous. Your fake distress call used the voices of human children crying for their parents. Our analysts recovered the recording. You made children's voices beg for mercy that would never come, and you call this a misunderstanding. Had no response. Even he knew some things could not be explained away. You have one chance, continued. Release the Valor and its crew, surrender your fleet, face judgment for your crimes. This is the only path where your people survive today. If I surrender, my career is over. My honor is destroyed. Your honor was destroyed when you faked that distress call. I am offering you a chance to save your crew's lives. That is more than you deserve. Looked at his tactical display. 37 human ships against his 12. 3 dreadnoughts, any one of which could destroy his entire fleet. The mathematics were clear, but his pride fought against acceptance. "The Galactic Council will not allow you to attack us," he said desperately. "You would be starting a war. You started the war, we are finishing it." Far away, at the Galactic Council headquarters, Ambassador was already addressing the assembled representatives. She was a small woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her career building bridges between species, finding peaceful solutions to conflicts. But today she had come with a different message. "Honored representatives," she said, her voice carrying across the vast chamber, "you have all received reports about what happened in the neutral zone. A fleet created a false human distress signal to lure one of our ships into an ambush. They intended to capture our crew and steal our technology." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Most species considered distress signals sacred. Using them as weapons was a betrayal of trust that affected everyone. "We have evidence," continued. "Recordings of the fake signal, analysis proving it was manufactured using technology, testimony from survivors of the attack." She pressed a button, and the distress call played through the chamber's speakers. The desperate voice filled the room, begging for help that would never come. "That voice belongs to no real human," said when the recording ended. "It was created in a laboratory designed to exploit our nature. They knew that humans cannot ignore calls for help. They used our compassion as a weapon against us." The ambassador, a tall being with blue feathers, spoke up. "What response do you seek from this council?" "We do not seek the council's help. We are informing you of what has already happened." The expression hardened. "Earth's Second Fleet has engaged the ambush force. We are taking action to protect our people and punish those who violated the sacred nature of distress signals." "You cannot simply attack another species without council authorization," the ambassador protested. "This is vigilante action. It violates galactic law." "Galactic law protects distress signals," replied. "Article 7 of the Emergency Response Treaty states that any species using false distress calls forfeits protection under Council regulations. They chose to break this law. They have forfeited their protection." The chamber fell silent. No one could argue with the legal point. The treaty was clear. "Earth has a new policy," announced. "Any species that creates false human distress signals will be treated as having committed an act of war. We will respond with maximum force, regardless of political consequences. This is not negotiable." Back at the battle, the negotiations had failed. Refused to surrender, choosing to fight despite impossible odds. Perhaps he hoped the council would intervene. Perhaps his pride simply would not let him yield. Either way, his choice sealed his fate. "All ships," ordered, "engage the enemy fleet. Priority targets are their weapons, systems, and engines. I want them disabled, not destroyed. We need survivors to face justice." The Second Fleet moved forward like a wave of steel and fire. Human warships were known throughout the galaxy for their combination of speed and firepower. What aliens often forgot was that humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other before reaching the stars. They knew war better than most species imagined. The dreadnought Unbreakable fired first, its main cannon sending a beam of concentrated energy through the darkness. The blast struck a destroyer, cutting through shields and armor like a knife through paper. The enemy ship broke in half, its crew spilling into space. "That was a warning shot," said grimly. "The next one hits flagship." The fleet scattered, trying to find defensive positions, but there was nowhere to go. Human ships came from every direction, firing with precision and purpose. They did not waste ammunition. Every shot had a target. Every target fell. Ensign Myra, watching from the crippled Valor, felt tears return to her eyes. This time they were tears of relief. Help had come. They were going to live. "Look at them," she whispered. "They came for us." Captain stood beside her, leaning on for support. Her wounds were serious, but she refused to go to the medical bay until the battle was over. She needed to see this. "This is what it means to be human," she told Myra. "We protect each other. We answer when our people call. And when someone hurts us, we make sure they never forget it." Flagship, the Pride of, took a direct hit to its engine section. The massive ship shuddered and began to drift, power failing throughout its systems. "High Commander," one of his officers reported, "shields are down, weapons are offline, we cannot fight anymore." Stared at his tactical display, watching his fleet die around him. Ships that had followed him into this trap, officers who had trusted his plan, all of them paying the price for his arrogance. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked quietly. "3, including us. The others are destroyed or disabled." 3 ships out of 12. 9 vessels gone, thousands of crew members dead or captured. And for what? A plan that was supposed to be perfect, a trap that could not fail. "Signal the humans," said finally. "Tell them we surrender." The fighting stopped. Human ships held their fire, waiting for confirmation. Admiral appeared on screen one final time. "Your fleet will power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. Your crews will be taken into custody. You will stand trial for crimes against galactic law." Nodded weakly. "I understand." "Do you? I wonder." Leaned forward, his eyes burning with intensity. "You thought you were clever, using our kindness against us. You thought compassion was weakness. But you see, that compassion is why we rush to help each other. And that same love is why we destroy anyone who threatens our people." The commander had nothing to say. He had learned his lesson, but far too late. Earth's fleet secured the battlefield. Medical ships rushed to the Valor, bringing doctors and supplies to treat the wounded. The survivors were evacuated. The dead were collected for proper burial. No one was left behind. As the rescue teams worked, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. Species who had considered humans soft or naive reconsidered their views. The message was clear. Humans would always answer a call for help, and if you used that trust against them, they would make you pay. Some called it revenge. Humans called it justice. The battle was over, but the aftermath would last for years. 9 ships floated as broken wreckage in the debris field. 3 more, including Flagship, had surrendered and were being towed to Earth space. The consortium had lost more than ships that day. They had lost respect, honor, and their standing among the galactic community. Captain Park lay in a hospital bed on the medical ship Mercy. Her wounds were serious but not fatal. The doctors said she would make a full recovery, though the scars would remain forever. She did not mind. Scars were proof that you had survived something terrible. Commander sat beside her bed, his own injuries bandaged. He had refused to rest until he knew his captain was safe. "The final count came in," he told her quietly. "We lost 60% of our crew, 144 people." Closed her eyes. Those numbers were not statistics to her. They were faces, names, friends she had served with for years. "Read me their names later," she said. "I want to remember every one of them." "You kept the ship alive for almost 8 hours against 12 enemy vessels. The analysts say no one has ever survived odds like that." "The ship kept itself alive. The crew kept it alive." Opened her eyes and looked at her first officer. "I just gave orders. They did the real work." In another section of the medical ship, Ensign Myra sat alone in a small room. The young weapons officer had performed brilliantly during the battle, but now the reality of what she had done was catching up with her. She had killed people, sailors who were just following orders just like her. A counselor came to speak with her. "What you are feeling is normal," the counselor said. "Taking lives, even in combat, leaves marks on the soul." "I did what I had to do," Myra said. "I know that, but it does not make it easier." "No, it never does. The fact that it hurts you means you are still human. Hold on to that." Chief Engineer O walked through the ruined corridors of the Valor one last time. The ship was being towed to a shipyard where it would either be repaired or scrapped. He touched the walls gently, saying goodbye to the vessel he had kept running against all odds. "You did good, girl," he whispered. "You held together when any other ship would have broken apart. I am proud of you." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the incident. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to hear testimony and deliver judgment. High Commander was brought before them in restraints, his military uniform stripped of its medals and honors. Ambassador presented Earth's case clearly and thoroughly. She showed evidence of the fake distress call, played recordings of the battle, and described the casualties suffered by the Valor's crew. The defendant used false distress signals to lure a human vessel into an ambush, she concluded. This violates Article 7 of the Emergency Response Treaty, which states that distress calls are sacred and must never be. The consortium's actions have endangered the trust that allows species to help each other across the galaxy. Was allowed to speak in his own defense. He stood slowly, looking older than he had before the battle. "I believed my plan was justified," he said. "Humans possess technology that my people wanted. I saw an opportunity to obtain it. I did not consider the broader consequences." "You did not consider the lives you would take?" asked. I thought the humans would surrender quickly. I expected a short battle, minimal casualties, a clean victory." His voice grew quieter. "I did not understand what I was dealing with." "No," agreed, "you did not." The council deliberated for 3 days. In the end, their verdict was unanimous. Was found guilty of violating the Emergency Response Treaty. He was sentenced to life imprisonment on a neutral prison world. The consortium was ordered to pay damages to Earth and to the families of those killed in the battle. More importantly, the Council issued a formal statement condemning the use of false distress signals. Any species caught using such tactics would face severe sanctions, including military intervention by the Council itself. The message was clear. Some lines must never be crossed. 6 months later, the UENS Valor returned to service. The ship had been rebuilt from the hull up, fitted with new systems and weapons. Captain Park stood on her bridge once again, surrounded by a crew that was part old faces and part new. The shipyard had offered her any assignment she wanted. Command of a dreadnought, a desk position at Earth Command, even a teaching role at the academy. She had turned them all down. "The Valor is my ship," she told them. "We survived together, we will serve together." Ensign Myra had been promoted to lieutenant. She stood at the weapons console, more confident now than she had been on that terrible day. The counseling had helped. Time had helped. She still remembered the lives she had taken, but she understood why it had been necessary. Was there too, loyal as always. He had received offers to captain his own ship but had declined. His place was beside, watching her back, questioning her decisions when needed, supporting her always. "Captain," reported from his new station, "we are receiving a distress call." The bridge went quiet. Everyone remembered what had happened the last time they answered such a call. "Source?" asked calmly. "Freighter, their reactor is failing. They have 40 passengers on board, including children." Paused. "The signal appears genuine." Did not hesitate. "Set course to intercept, maximum speed." Raised an eyebrow. "After everything that happened, we are still going to answer every distress call." "Yes," turned to face her crew. "What they did was evil, but we cannot let evil change who we are. Humans answer calls for help. That is our nature. That is our strength. If we stop doing it, if we let fear make us cold and suspicious, then they win even though they lost." The crew nodded in understanding. They had all thought about this question in the months since the battle. Now they had their answer. "Besides," added with a slight smile, "if anyone else is thinking about trapping a human ship, they now know what happens. Earth answered our call with 37 warships. I think people have learned their lesson." The Valor turned toward the freighter, engines pushing the ship to its limits. There were people in trouble, people who needed help, and humans would always answer. 3 hours later, they arrived at the freighter to find it genuinely damaged and desperate. 42 passengers were rescued, including 8 children who had been crying in fear. The captain wept with relief when human faces appeared at his airlock. "Thank you," he said over and over. "Thank you for coming." Shook his hand firmly. "No thanks needed. This is what we do." Word spread throughout the galaxy about both incidents. The trap that had failed and the rescue that proved humans had not changed. Species discussed it in taverns and council chambers, in universities and military bases. The conclusion was always the same. Humans were strange creatures. They would risk their lives for strangers. They would fly into danger because someone called for help, and if you tried to use that kindness against them, they would burn your fleet to ash and smile while doing it. It was a contradiction that most species could not understand. Compassion and fury, mercy and vengeance, all wrapped together in beings that should not have survived their own history. But perhaps that was why humans had spread so far among the stars. They were not the strongest species. They were not the most advanced. They were simply the most human, and in a cold, dark universe that mattered more than anything else. The Valor continued its patrol, watching the stars, waiting for the next call. Because somewhere out there, someone always needed help, and humans would always answer. Always.